Hello, I'm Johnny Atkinson. I grew up in Baton Rouge, went to LSU, then made the big move to Los Angeles to start my TV career. I worked at TV stations around the country doing news, production, and television, but I made the big move back in 2022, and now I'm back home in Louisiana. A haunted house is something we've all read about in books and we've seen in movies, but there's one historical haunted house that I found right here in Louisiana. It dates back to the early 1800s with old ghost stories and strange occurrences, from the odd smells to the voices to the unexplained noises. I took a closer look at Lloyd Hall's declared hauntings and their historical significance back home in Louisiana. There's one old home in Cheneyville, Louisiana, built in 1820. It has 10 rooms with 8 fireplaces and its original 16-inch solid brick walls. And the Lloyd Hall Plantation home is believed to be haunted.
I could stand here all afternoon and tell you of my experience, and you would say I was losing my mind. Strange things happen that you just can't explain away.
Beulah Davis started working in the home in 1971 as a housekeeper, and it wasn't long before she began hearing strange sounds and witnessing unexplained motions.
You may hear footsteps. You may smell food at strange times, no food nowhere in sight. Door open and shut, or things will be moved from where you put them.
It is believed that the ghosts of Lloyd Hall started when the original owner, William Lloyd, was called a traitor during the Civil War. He was tarred and feathered and then hung by the Union soldiers.
What really made me believe that there was something here when you can hear your name called. And at first I said, now everybody's gone for the day. There's nobody here. I went upstairs and I looked around and checked things out. I didn't see anybody. I said, oh, you just imagine it. But when it happened the third time, I said, okay, there's something here they want me to really believe.
There are bloodstains still on the 3rd floor, believed to be from a deserted Union soldier. People also hear and smell things cooking, and sightings of a slave who died in the home, and Lloyd's niece who fell to her death in the 3rd floor window.
I think they're watching over this property. I don't think they're here to hurt you. They just let you know that they're present in odd ways.
There are several houses and buildings behind the Lloyd Hall home that were once used for workers on the plantation, and today they've been restored for guests and people studying the history. The plantation is listed in the National Historic Register and is the heart of a 640-acre working farm, surrounded by sugarcane, soybean, and pasture land. Today, Lloyd Hall is used for different occasions, from weddings to family reunions to schools coming in for lessons in the Louisiana plantation history. It's a beautiful home with a long history, and it's possibly haunted. I'm Johnny Atkinson reporting. Well, family stores are sometimes passed down, but there's one local family business that's now gone through 6 generations. It's one of the oldest jewelry stores in the country, and it's home right here in Louisiana. It may just be that ring shop around the corner, but Schnack's Jewelry has a history of 160 years. It all started in 1865. The Civil War was ending, and Louisiana was rebuilding from the devastation. Carl Schnack packed up and moved halfway around the world to the banks of the Red River.
He came from Hamburg, Germany, and went to work as a watchmaker at Ferguson Snack, which was a store on Front Street where the levee is now.
Carl purchased the store and renamed it C.A. Schnack Jewelry. Over the years, the business grew and became one of the largest jewelry and gift stores in the South. Carl Karstens, the great-grandson of Carl Schnack, was the 4th generation of the Schnack family. He's now been working at Schnack's Jewelry for more than 70 years.
I got out of the Army in 1953 and came to work here, and my dad was working there.
Schnack's went through several changes over the years, moving to different locations and changing the items in the store.
I always thought we had value merchandise and value created service, and those were the 2 things that we emphasized and worked at. and still believe in, and are constantly trying to improve today.
And Carl isn't the only one carrying on the 160-year tradition of Snacks jewelry.
My son Bill works here, and my other son Pitts works here, and my grandson William works here.
Snacks Fine Jewelry was voted best jewelry store in Cenla 3 years in a row, and that qualifies them for the Business Hall of Fame. Schnack says the customer who rode his horse up to the store in 1865 is the same value-conscious customer who drives in today. I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana. And when we come back, we'll learn about the first people in Louisiana who were here before Columbus ever discovered America. Well, big areas around Louisiana have always been populated due to the fresh water, the inherent foods, and the natural wildlife, but the area went through some dramatic changes that started in the 1700s. I talked to some experts in this back home in Louisiana. Cenla is a beautiful area in Louisiana with lots of different scenic landscapes, from the hilly region of pine trees to the beautiful open prairies and the short-term forests. The open land is filled with small swamplands, clear streams, and large rivers. Today, Central Louisiana is made up of a large, diversified group of people with roots worldwide. But the land surrounding Cenla was first a home for another population that many have forgotten. In the early days of Louisiana history, Cenla was home for Native American Indians, as 7 known native tribes made up a great part of the area. Clifton Choctaw tribes were a big part of the Rapides and Vernon parishes, and the Louisiana Band and Gina Band of Choctaw occupied LaSalle and Concordia parishes. And the Natchitoches parish was made up of Adai Caddo and the Natchitoches tribe. John Barbary is the director of the Language and Revitalization Program for the Tunica Biloxi tribe, which was a part of the Avoyelles parish. He has studied the history of many Native American tribes that settled around central Louisiana. Tell me about the American Indians and how they dealt with the settlers from France and from Spain.
A lot of traditional knowledge was interrupted when the colonists came, the French and the Spanish. We migrated down the Mississippi River and then up the Red River on the Avoyelles Prairie. And so we all kind of settled where the Red River meets the Mississippi.
For many centuries, the American Indian loved the open land and natural foods and wildlife that we've all grown to love in Louisiana. Michael Wynn is a local historian and has written books documenting the Cenla area's history.
In the earliest days, central Louisiana was inundated with Indian tribes. It is absolutely amazing how many Indians and different tribes and villages.
In 1492, Christopher Columbus traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and discovered the New World of America. Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto traveled down the Mississippi River and into the Gulf as early as the mid-1500s. Then in 1682, the French explorer La Salle claimed the territory at the foot of the Mississippi River for France and named it Louisiana, after King Louis XIV. Next came European settlers in the New Orleans area, where the Mississippi River flows into the Gulf. European settlers built up the area for trade, and settlers slowly migrated farther north into central Louisiana. In the 1700s, French settlers tried to work with Native Americans and conducted trading with the local Indian tribes. These new settlers brought metal tools, knives, and clothing, and trade with the Louisiana Indian tribes became common.
So in the 1730s, we had a relationship with the French, and so a lot of the things that were given to us as gifts, as tributes from their leadership in New Orleans and our people here.
But the growing number of European settlers carried germs and disease which thrived in the fast-growing populations around Louisiana. And the Native American population was devastated by the settlers, as they had never experienced smallpox, measles, or even the flu. These new viruses tore through the continent, killing an estimated 90% of Native Americans.
And we were a small tribe. You know, we had been decimated by the disease that the Europeans brought over, the Spanish. So we were small. We were looking for protection. We were looking for alliances.
The native Indians generally greeted the newcomers with goodwill. They were impressed by the Europeans' technology and curious about their appearance, their language, and their unusual behavior.
A lot of the things that were given to us as gifts, as tributes, ceramics, you'll see a lot of metal, brass, and different beads, lots of different things that sometimes were just used for utilitarian purposes, but also for adornment.
Historian Paul Price has studied the origins of Central Louisiana and has documented much of Louisiana's unknown history and much of the association with the Native Americans.
When the settlers came, it was a completely new way of life. It was a completely different culture. So instead of hunting deer and small game and gathering nuts and berries, they learned that you could get a job and you could be paid wages and you could buy things like cloth or iron tools. Those were things that they didn't have.
Many Louisiana tribes worked with the European settlers, buying and selling food, tobacco, and clothing. Today, much of the Native American heritage is being restored and honored around Cenla as Native American tribes began opening casinos in the 1990s.
But it was about putting land into trust, you know, where it would be part of our reservation, designated for gaming, and was just an economic boom for the local communities.
The casinos bring in lots of jobs and tax revenue, which continues to greatly preserve the legacy of the American Indian in Central Louisiana. I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana. Well, one common tradition unique to Louisiana is the food, and there's one distinctive seasonal Cajun food that's catching on around the country, and it's only served the first few months of every year. Find out its history and its ingredients coming up. January 6th to Mardi Gras Day is a unique season for one Louisiana Cajun dish. I went on a hunt to uncover the facts behind the Louisiana King Cake. A new year in Louisiana means another Sugar Bowl, Mardi Gras parades, and of course the King Cake. What do you think of King Cake?
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite.
I love king cake.
Do you like King Cake?
I love king cake.
At least I do love king cakes.
Do you like King Cakes?
I do like king cakes.
What's the history of a King Cake?
I have no idea. I do not know how king cake started.
I'm not really sure of the history of king cake. But
What's the history of the King Cake?
It is, green means money, I think. Purple, I don't know.
I wanted to get the real story behind the King Cake, so I had to find a real expert.
The king cake starts on Epiphany, but you eat them all the way up until Fat Tuesday, which is Mardi Gras Day.
Amy Clark is from Elizabeth, Louisiana, and has been cooking king cake since she was a little girl. She's lived in different parts of the country and introduces people to the long-standing tradition of round colored cake with a symbolic baby hidden inside.
And they actually still enjoy getting the baby. That's like a big deal. We're here, we try to avoid it because we know that means we've got to provide the next king cake.
Recently, Amy entered the King Cake competition for the best king cake in Louisiana, and she took home the first place award.
The king cake that I entered that won the first place accolade was just this. It's just dough, cinnamon, and sugar.
The King Cake goes back to the first Christmas and the three wise men, or wise kings,
bringing gifts to baby Jesus.
That's the celebration of Epiphany on January 6th, and it was supposed to be shaped round to resemble the crowns of the three magi that came after Christ's birth.
King cake season starts on the 12th night of Christmas, January 6th, and the cake is decorated in the traditional Mardi Gras colors of green, purple, and gold.
First celebration of Mardi Gras in America was in like 1699. And around the 1870s, when the French settlers came in to the Louisiana area, they brought that tradition.
It started in New Orleans, then changed like other old Cajun traditions.
This is what I call diapering the baby, and it's going to help it retain its shape. And this also is what helps it cook evenly.
King cakes are available at big chain grocery stores around Louisiana and local independent cake shops.
Or you can make a special order from the Louisiana King Cake Festival winner, the Cajun Peach.
Primarily, the Cajun Peach is a French macaron business. I make specialty macarons in all different flavors and different styles. I paint on them. I can make them in different shapes. Macaron is not just a food item, it's an experience.
I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana.
Louisiana is known around the world for the shrimp, the crawfish, and the catfish, of course. But how big are the wild catfish in the Louisiana bayous? I met a couple of old-fashioned fishermen in the old river back home in Louisiana.
There are two brothers who grew up in the small town of Moreauville, Louisiana. They spent much of their time hunting and going to school, of course, but they really had a passion for fishing catfish.
We've been fishing since we were old enough to barely hold a pole.
The Dufour brothers have been fishing off piers and boats and waters all over the state, and still today a big part of their lives is devoted to fishing.
Any chance I get them off of work, it's all about the fishing these days.
Jeremy Dufour, who's nicknamed Creole, has competed and won fishing tournaments around Louisiana and is undefeated in one-on-one fishing competitions.
I don't work on old cars anymore, don't play music anymore, it's just fish, every moment I can.
About 5 years ago, Creole and his brother Andrew got an idea. They wanted to catch trophy-sized catfish, but the old-fashioned way, with just a rod and reel.
I mean, basically, Louisiana has the best trophy catfishing waters in this country, hands down.
By using the old-fashioned rod and reel, the brothers were catching blue catfish weighing over 50 pounds.
5 or 6 years ago, we got into specifically searching for trophy catfish, the really big ones.
Just this fall, the brothers are reeling in catfish that were getting bigger and bigger, so they set a goal. They wanted to catch a 100-pound catfish.
Louisiana honestly has the best potential of trophy catfishing in the country.
Just a few months ago, they reeled in the big one.
Dude, that's a big fish. Oh man, that's a big fish.
Oh my God, dude! Oh, baby! Oh!
We got a little one.
We caught a big catfish today.
Yeah.
Oh! Oh!
Oh!
Film it.
That's... Wait, what's the math? 101?
It's 100.5.
We just got 100.
We just got our hundo.
Oh! Oh my God!
I got it.
The big catfish that the brothers reel in are all returned to the bayou unharmed.
It's hard to come up with words to describe the feeling of catching a fish of a lifetime like that.
Catching that big fish was just such an amazing experience.
The big blue catfish weighed over 100 pounds.
Now it's been a couple of months and I still haven't figured out how to actually describe it.
It can't go on and say how excited we were to catch that fish and hopefully get another one real soon.
Creole Dufour now has a captain's license and is starting a charter guide business called Creole's Guide Service.
Thank y'all. Bon pêche.
They still have a few pounds to go, but the unending goal of the brothers is to catch the biggest catfish ever caught in Louisiana. I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana.
Well, there are lots of unique businesses in Louisiana, but there's one big business that was invented in Louisiana, manufactured in Louisiana, and was popular around the world. Learn the history of Ammons Powder Company after the break. Well, a long time ago, a small Louisiana pharmacist got an idea for a special over-the-counter substance that was different from all the regular pills and medicines. He patented the idea, had it manufactured right here in central Louisiana. Here's the story back home in Louisiana.
1903 was a year of many notable events, including the first transatlantic radio broadcast, the first flight in a motorized airplane, and a new powder invented to treat insect bites and skin irritations, and for babies. Charles Varner Ammon owned a New Orleans drugstore when he began work on his unique pain relief formula that was different from standard medicines and pills.
So he started the powder in 1903?
Yes. And I think since he was having a baby, you know, he kind of really wanted to perfect it for his new baby, which was my grandfather.
Janet Flowers Butler is the great-granddaughter of Charles Ammon, the inventor of the Ammon's powder formula, and she remembers hearing stories as a kid.
In 1905, he patented it and started the Ammon's Powder Company Limited.
Ammon's powder was being sold at his pharmacy in New Orleans, but the demand was growing fast. In 1912, Charles Ammon partnered with Dr. Clarence Pearson.
They moved Ammon's Powder Company to Alexandria, Louisiana, to start manufacturing it.
In 1912, an entire company was set up in downtown Alexandria, where Ammon's powder could be manufactured, canned, and distributed.
And the funny thing to me was they used modern technology, machinery, to make Ammon's powder, and it was untouched by human hands. Wow. Which I thought was kind of, you know, funny with it being way back then.
In the 1920s, advertisements ran in newspapers in the South and national magazines, appealing to women who had babies and women who wore girdles.
Way back when, people did not have air conditioning like we do, and so they had a really hard time with these rashes that they had, and Ammon's powder really came in for them.
At the start of World War II, Ammon's powder was given to U.S. military for soldiers around the world.
The federal government really liked Ammon's powder because it had no caustic thing in it. It was very, you know, natural and really good for everybody.
The Ammon's Powder Company was sold to Bristol Myers in 1997, but it will always hold a special place in Louisiana history. I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana. And we'll wrap things up after the break. And if you have a story idea about something unique to Louisiana, send me an email at jatkinson@kalb.com. I look forward to seeing it. And that's all for this special program. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Johnny Atkinson, back home in Louisiana.